The hidden economic crisis when growth doesn't lift all boats. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm truly honored to be here today sharing insights from my recent interview with Iris Medina, a brilliant economic analyst and advocate whose work has been nothing short of revolutionary in uncovering economic disparities that remain invisible in mainstream reporting. Iris is one of those rare visionaries who combines rigorous data analysis with profound compassion, helping us see beyond the headlines to understand how economic shifts impact real communities. Her dedication to economic justice has transformed how many policymakers approach inclusive growth strategies, and her groundbreaking research has given voice to those who have been systematically silenced in economic conversations. Iris doesn't just analyze numbers, she humanizes them, forcing us to confront the faces behind the statistics. Have you ever noticed how we talk about the economy as if it were a single entity that affects everyone equally? The economy is growing, unemployment is down, the market is up. These statements create the comforting illusion that when the economic tide rises, all boats rise with it. But what if some boats have holes in them? What if others are anchored to the bottom? What if some people don't have boats at all? This is the sobering reality I discovered during my conversation with Iris about a troubling economic phenomenon that's receiving far too little attention. In April 2025, the US economy added 175,000 jobs. Headlines celebrated, politicians took credit, financial analysts nodded approvingly. But buried beneath these positive numbers was a disturbing truth. During that same month, Black women lost 106,000 jobs. Let that sink in for a moment. 175,000 jobs gained overall, 106,000 jobs lost by Black women alone. While the economy was growing, while opportunities were expanding for many, Black women experienced a massive contraction in employment. Their unemployment rate jumped from 5.1% to 6.1% in a single month, a full percentage point increase that represents tens of thousands of livelihoods disrupted, families stressed, and dreams deferred. This isn't just a statistical anomaly. It's a glaring example of how economic growth can occur alongside deepening inequality. It challenges the fundamental assumption that a rising tide lifts all boats equally, and it forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about who our economic systems are actually designed to serve. As Iris explained during our interview, this disparity isn't happening in a vacuum. It's the result of specific structural factors that make Black women particularly vulnerable to economic shifts. The first major factor is the reduction in federal employment opportunities. Historically, federal jobs have provided stable employment with better benefits and stronger anti discrimination protections than many private sector positions. For generations, these jobs have been crucial pathways to middle class stability for Black women. Denise's story illustrates this reality powerfully. She had built a 22-year career in federal service, rising through the ranks with exemplary performance evaluations. When her department faced budget cuts, she was among the first let go despite her impeccable record and institutional knowledge. The federal government was where I found stability, Denise told Iris. It wasn't perfect, but the rules were clear, the benefits supported my family, and I could advance based on my performance rather than who I knew or how I looked. After losing her position, Denise found herself competing in a private sector job market that undervalued her experience and expertise. At 53, she faced both age discrimination and racial bias. I went from being a respected manager to being told I was overqualified for positions I could do in my sleep, she shared. Denise's story isn't unique. It's replicated thousands of times across the country as federal employment contracts. The second factor Iris identified was the troubling rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives across major industries. Following the racial justice movements of 2020, many corporations expanded DEI programs that created new pathways for recruitment, retention, and advancement of Black women. But in recent years, we've seen a significant retreat from these commitments, with many companies reducing or eliminating these programs entirely. What we're seeing, Iris explained, is that when DEI is treated as a trend rather than a core business value, the opportunities it creates are fragile and easily lost when priorities shift or budgets tighten. Take Maya's experience at a major tech company. After being recruited through a diversity initiative in 2021, she quickly proved her value, leading a product team to record breaking performance. Despite her success, when the company faced pressure from certain shareholders to scale back non essential programs, the mentorship and professional development resources that had supported her advancement were the first to go. Within months, the subtle exclusion began, being left off key email chains, not invited to strategic meetings, passed over for high visibility projects. It was like watching a door that had briefly opened slowly close again, Maya told Iris, not with a bang, but with a whisper. The third insight Iris shared is perhaps the most concerning. This is not an isolated incident, but part of a pattern. According to data from HBCU Money that Iris cited, the number of Black women employed is at a 5-month low, while the number unemployed is at a 5-month high. This suggests a concerning trend that requires immediate attention and targeted solutions to prevent further economic marginalization. When we look at economic data through an intersectional lens, Iris noted, we often find that Black women are the canaries in the coal mine. The economic challenges they face today often signal broader problems that will affect others tomorrow. But Iris's analysis wasn't just about identifying problems, it was also about highlighting resilience and pointing towards solutions. One of the most powerful examples she shared was how Black women have responded to these employment challenges through entrepreneurship and community based solutions. Between 2019 and 2023, Black women owned businesses saw average revenues increase by 32.7%, demonstrating remarkable growth despite systemic challenges. This entrepreneurial success provides an alternative economic model that may offer greater stability than traditional employment for some Black women, especially during periods of employment volatility. Black women have always had to create their own opportunities, Iris reminded me. From Madam C.J. Walker to the modern tech founders I work with today, there's a long tradition of turning exclusion from traditional systems into innovation and independent wealth creation. Consider Tasha, who, after being laid off from her corporate marketing position, launched a digital agency specifically serving Black owned small businesses. I took what felt like rejection and turned it into redirection, she told Iris. Now I employ 5 other Black women who face similar situations, and we're helping businesses that traditional agencies often overlook. Within 18 months, her agency was generating more revenue than her previous corporate salary. with the freedom to create a workplace culture centered on inclusion and flexibility. This entrepreneurial spirit is exemplified by organizations like Black Women in Business, which has expanded mentorship programs to fill the gap left by corporate retreats from DEI. These grassroots efforts provide crucial support, though Iris emphasized they cannot fully replace the opportunities lost through institutional DEI programs. In the federal sector, where job losses have been particularly acute, Black women have formed networking groups and professional development communities to share job leads and upskilling opportunities. Organizations like the African American Federal Executive Association have increased advocacy efforts, resulting in congressional hearings on the disparate impact of federal job cuts. What's remarkable, Iris said, is how quickly these community based solutions emerged. There was no waiting for permission or external validation. When the systems failed, Black women created their own systems. This resilience is inspiring, but it shouldn't obscure the fundamental injustice at play. The burden of adaptation shouldn't fall solely on those most affected by systemic failures. As Iris powerfully stated during our conversation, resilience is not a substitute for justice. So, what does justice look like in this context? According to Iris, it starts with visibility, acknowledging that aggregate economic statistics often mask significant disparities along racial and gender lines. It requires disaggregating data to understand how economic shifts affect different communities differently. And it demands targeted policies that address specific barriers rather than one size fits all approaches. When we say the economy is growing, we need to ask, growing for whom? Iris challenged. When we celebrate job creation, we need to ask, who's getting those jobs? And when we see disparities like Black women losing jobs while others gain them, we need to ask, what specific factors are driving this inequality and how can we address them? These questions aren't just academic, they have real implications for how we design economic policies, how businesses approach hiring and advancement, and how we measure economic success as a society. As Maya Angelou wisely said, when you know better, you do better. The data Iris shared gives us the knowledge. Now we must do better. We must recognize that economic systems that consistently leave certain groups behind aren't just unfair, they're inefficient. They waste human potential, limit innovation, and ultimately constrain growth for everyone. The affirmation Iris shared with me that resonates most powerfully is this: economic justice isn't charity, it's smart economics. When we create systems that work for those who have been most marginalized, we create systems that work better for everyone. I stand before you today not just to share information, but to ignite transformation. The economic invisibility of Black women isn't just their problem, it's our collective failure. Every time we celebrate economic growth without questioning who's being left behind, we become complicit in a system that treats some lives as expendable. This isn't about politics, it's about people. It's about recognizing that an economy that systematically excludes the talents, contributions, and potential of Black women isn't just unjust, it's unsustainable and profoundly foolish. I challenge you to leave here today and become economic truth tellers. Question the headlines, demand disaggregated data, support Black women entrepreneurs, not just with your words, but with your dollars, your investments, your mentorship, and your advocacy. If you're a business leader, examine your hiring and promotion practices with unflinching honesty. If you're a policymaker, create economic measures that make the invisible visible. If you're an educator, teach economic literacy that includes the experiences of those at the margins. And if you're a citizen who believes in justice, refuse to accept economic narratives that erase the experiences of Black women. Because when we build an economy that works for those who have been most systematically excluded, we build an economy that truly works for everyone. The question isn't whether we can afford to create economic justice. The question is, how much longer can we afford not to?